You are listening to the Manifested Sis podcast, a safe space for women of color to explore all things manifesting, wellness, self-care, and personal development. You are always manifesting, and now you can do it intentionally and consciously to create the life of your dreams. Each episode gives you actionable tips and strategies, from the spiritual to the practical, that will help you get from where you are to exactly where you want to be, with grace and ease. Thanks for tuning in. Here's your host, intuitive life coach, Dani Faust.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to Manifested Sis. This is episode number 5, and we're speaking today with Aaronica Cole, who is a woman that I know you're going to love her. Let's just say that. I've known Aaronica for a few years now. We were colleagues in the blogging/mom blog world, and she is a phenomenal woman, and she's someone to know. So Aaronica runs The Crunchy Mommy, which is a practically green guide for millennial moms on the go. The goal of her site is to give moms a space that they can feel like they're the amazing people they are, while saving the world with one green tip at a time. She is also a seamstress and makes amazing clothes for herself and her children. She's a mom of 3. She is a Spelman graduate. She has a BA in psychology, an MBA in marketing, and she creates her own body butters, she believes in baby-led weaning and breastfeeding, attachment parenting. She's just an amazing woman. And today we're talking about mindfulness, authenticity, and listening to the nudges from the universe. So let's jump right on in with Aaronica Cole.
Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Oh, me too. So I start every episode with this one question for my guests. So what does manifesting mean to you?
Manifesting, making things happen. Are we allowed to curse?
Girl, you know me.
Okay. Well, making shit happen. I think, in my opinion, manifesting is actually not just saying, but it's the doing, because I definitely believe in the power of speaking things into existence, but you can't speak without acting, and I think that the manifesting is in the acting.
Like that. So what actions do you take towards your goals? Like, what's the one go-to thing that that you'll be able to rock to make happen and manifest your good shit?
So I am a chronic planner and list maker, and I have to write things down. And I find that in order for me to really stay focused, or even to get some kind of semblance of focus, because my brain is basically like a web browser with a million open tabs. The only way that I'm able to get anything done or accomplished is by, setting daily intentions, but also making sure that my intentions are aligned with my life plan. But by writing things down, one of my most recent pictures on Instagram is basically talking about how going into, week 3 of quarantine, how am I going to plan for this to make sure that I can get all of the things done that I'd like to get done, while home with 3 kids and my husband, and, running a house and making sure that my home doesn't get trashed, and, making sure that my businesses are thriving and not giving up on, doing all of the things that I want to be doing. It also helps me to not get overwhelmed, because I can get easily overwhelmed. I get so excited about new things and pursuing new projects that if I'm not careful, then I'm just like, oh my God, I have to do all of the things. So I find that making sure that I write things down and, actively plan for them, making a list of, all of the things. I like to write down cost benefit analyses to see if it's even worth it. But I've got an insane amount of journals in which I do this in. So I am a bullet journaler, so I keep track of my daily plans in there. I have a notebook that's just kind of filled with business plans. And if it wasn't for those things, then I don't think that I would actually be able to get anything done.
Oh my goodness, you sound very Virgo, very streamlined and planned and together. You're such a grown-up. Shit. Okay, first of all, I love that you mentioned your Instagram. You guys check out the show notes, because her Instagram stories are so inspiring. When I feel like crap, I see her stories and I'm just like, okay, I can tackle the day now. So that is fantastic. Have you always been a planner, very organized, or is this something that was a journey for you?
I think that I'm like a combination of being a planner because I like to plan so that I can be sporadic, so that I know when I can be, or if I decide to just totally forego all of the plans, at least I know where I need to pick back up where I left off, So it helps me to be more spontaneous, especially because when you have kids and you give them a plan, it's almost like they're determined to make sure that plan does not happen. And so, as we veer off of our plans, I like to know where I am when I need to come back. And I have always been a planner. Like I've had my life planned out for as long as I could remember. And my life right now is nothing what I planned. When I was a kid, I was like, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to be a pediatrician. I'm going to have 3 kids. I'm going to marry my high school sweetheart. I'm going to, essentially save the world one kid at a time. And the only thing that I have done so far on that plan is have 3 kids.
Okay. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this because I know so many women, when we're younger, we're like, okay, by the time I'm 25, I'm going to have XYZ in order. And then life hits us and we're like, wait, maybe by 30, 35, 40. So what did you do to kind of reconcile the plan not going as you expected? Can you talk us through the journey there?
Whew, girl. I mean, yes. So I actually didn't have a high school sweetheart. So I knew at that point in time, we were going to have to just kind of like freestyle it and make things up as we went. You know what I mean? And I also didn't have a college sweetheart. So life has not been at all what I planned it to be. And I feel like when those shifts happen, sometimes it hits me hard. But I think that now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, plot twist. All right, let's switch up the script. You know what I mean? And I've become way more adaptable. But let's see, when I was 23, I got married for the first time. And when I was married to my first husband, I was told that I couldn't have children. And so I was like, all right, cool. I'll just foster and adopt because, you don't have to have kids in order to be a mom. You don't have to birth children in order to be deemed a mom. And I knew that I had a lot of love to give. And I was like, that's fine. But then I filed for divorce. And as I filed for divorce, I found out that I was pregnant. And I was like, wow, look at that other plot twist. And, they always say that if you want to see if God has a sense of humor, tell him your plans for life. And God is always showing me his sense of humor because I am a planner. And so actually in 2009, I filed for divorce. I got laid off from work. I found out that I was pregnant. I became homeless and I was couch surfing as a pregnant single person. And at that point in time, I was like, whew, this life plan is like not going well at all. So I moved in with my mom. And when I moved in with her, I was spiritually in a different place. Like I was interested in learning more about Ifa and Yoruba and finding out just kind of more about deities and stuff like that. And I've always loved to study religion. And I used the time to kind of recenter myself and figure out spiritually where I was so that I could allow that to guide me, because I feel like throughout my life, I was just kind of missing the lessons that I was supposed to be getting. I think that my immaturity was like earplugs, for what I was supposed to be doing. And because of that, I feel like the universe, God was like, that's cool. I got you. I know what'll make you sit down and listen. And that was a child. Yeah. So I got pregnant with my oldest, who was a little girl. And, when I was pregnant with her, I used that time to really develop a closer relationship to God and to my spirituality so that it could guide me in my planning versus me being like, nope, I know what I need to be doing. And instead allowing my plans to work with what I felt like I was supposed to be doing. And so after I had her, I moved back to Atlanta, and it was just she and I who moved. I moved in with a girlfriend of mine. We raised our daughters together for 3 years because I was like, look, I just don't want to take the path that's going to be hardest for me. When I was pregnant with my oldest, I heard this quote, and it was, the immature learn by doing, the mature learn by seeing. And so instead of doing all of the things that were going to be hard for me, I chose to sit back and watch and try to make some different decisions in our life, because it wasn't just me. And then cut to now, I managed to meet my husband when my daughter was 2.5 years old. You know, we actually dated with the intention of getting married because we were both at this phase in life where we were looking for life partners. You know, we were looking to have that sort of thing. And I never thought that I would actually be where I am, you know, but I am grateful that I was able to kind of stop where I was and stop pursuing the life of immaturity and not being able to hear and not being able to pursue and walk in the lessons that God had for me so that I can get to where I am.
I love that. I absolutely love that. First of all, I love that you call it shifts and plot twists, because that's such a gentle way of living the life and experiencing the life versus like, oh, this is going to take me down and like going to a spiraling deep depression or something. And I love also that while you were pregnant, you started looking into the deities, and I feel like your daughter was guiding you to that, but that's a separate conversation we can have offline. So you said you were missing the lessons, and then you started to listen. Did you go through any personal development type work, any books, anything that you did to kind of help you make that mental switch in your mindset? Or was it just like you were going with a flow and following your intuition, or both?
I think that it finally hit me, you know, with pregnancy. Like, well, one, I'm addicted to like self-help books. I love a quality self-help book, you know, but not like on the esoteric self-help, but like on some practical, like, okay, after I'm done reading this, I can apply this, this, and this, and it's going to make a difference. I love reading self-help books that are like that, you know?
Practical. Yes.
Exactly. But like, I've always had things happen, you know, and people will say things like, oh, well, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in higher power. I don't believe in spirits. But like, my life says that there is one. There are so many times that I should have been dead or injured. I can't count how many times I've been just reckless. Like, I have, you know, just been reckless. I've lived a reckless life, that there's a lot of times that I sit back and say to myself, like, I probably shouldn't have lived through that. But I did. I came out unscathed, and God provided lessons to me afterwards. Like, I remember one time, and this is telling on myself, but whatever.
Please do.
When I was in college, I had sex with one of my friends, and I knew he had a girlfriend. And immediately following that, I got dressed. I left his apartment, and I was walking, and I was feeling myself, Dani. I was like, oh, your girl is fire, right? You know, I was like, my body was tight. You know, I was walking in these little stilettos because I didn't.
Bad bitch energy.
Bad bitch, right? Girl, I fell on nothing, not once, not twice, 3 times in front of people.
You know what was happening,
like,
right?
I knew. And I was like, cool. After that 3rd time, I was like, I got it, God. I'm sorry. It's fine. It won't happen again. Promise. Something happened just like that. Like, I finally bought a car. I didn't come from a family where my parents bought me a car when I was in high school. I bought my first car when I interned. I took all of the money that I gotten for like lodging, and I bought a car with it. And I drove it back to Atlanta, and it was my senior year. I was like, bloop, everything's awesome. A week after I'd moved back, my car rolled down a hill.
Ooh.
And I remember crying because like shortly after that, I sprained my ankle. I lived about 20 miles away from where I went to school. I went to Spelman. I lived in Marietta. And I remember crying to a friend of mine whom I was sleeping with, and I probably shouldn't have been sleeping with. So hello, universe again. And I was like, you know, I'm a good person. Why do these bad things keep happening to me? And he said something to me that I've never forgotten. He said, it's always easy to be a good person when things are going well, but the true testament of your character is how you react when shit hits the fan. Oh. And, you know, that's one of the lessons that I've carried through with me throughout everything, because it's true. It's so easy to be a good person and to be kind and to be loving and to be generous and compassionate when your life is going well. But what happens when it's not? You know, who are you then? And so that's just kind of something that stayed with me as I have just kind of gone through the rest of the lessons that, you know, I've had to.
That is so powerful. And first of all, kudos to you. Kudos to your angels, because they're clearly working overtime on your ass, even though they were tripping you in front of those folks. But whatever, we'll forgive them.
Everybody. They were like, cool, she thinks she a baddie. We're going to show her who the true baddies are. And I was like, got it. Y'all got it.
But kudos to you for listening. I mean, I know some hard-headed people, including myself. I mean, it would take me a lot of times to get the lesson, and then I'd have to be like, But you know, they say that God, spirit, universe, whatever, they'll whisper at first. They'll give you the lesson really softly at first. You don't hear it? Okay, we're going to talk a little louder. And then if you're really not listening, then it's just going to go batshit, and you're going to hear, you're going to learn this lesson somehow.
Yes.
And it won't be sweet. So
like they physically knocked me on my ass multiple times. It's fine. Yes.
You know, but you chose to listen, and that is beautiful, and that is growth. So kudos to you. Kudos to you on that. And so these lessons that honestly, let's be real. We're young. You learn those lessons early in life. There are some growner women who are still working to learn to listen to the universe. Do you have any tips for them? Or what would you say to the woman who's like, well, I don't know when the universe is speaking to me. I don't know when God's speaking to me. What do I do? Do you have any tips for them?
Sometimes the universe speaks in ways that you least expect it. Like something that I work with my daughter on, my oldest, because, you know, we deal with bullies and stuff like that, or people who are being mean. And there's always truth in everything, whether you want to hear it or not. And the lesson is normally in what you don't want to hear. You know, for example, like if someone who you don't necessarily respect or you think is great, etc., you know, may say something to you, and if you feel some kind of way, chances are they're giving you a level of truth that you just kind of weren't ready for, and you don't necessarily want to accept for them. And it's just time to hold on to some maturity and get the lesson from it and grow from it and keep it moving. There's always something that you can use, you know. And the other thing is spend time by yourself. Like when I tell you that there are a lot of moments throughout the day where I'm like, why can't I just be quarantined alone? Like,
same.
I could have so many conversations with God. And that's the other thing is, like, learn how to listen. I remember when I was in college, I read this book, Conversations with God. There's 3 editions. I didn't read the other 2. I just read the first one. And growing up, I grew up Catholic, so I didn't really understand how to pray. Like, I didn't know, like, what I was supposed to say. I didn't know what I was supposed to hear. And that book was probably the most life-changing for me as far as my spirituality went, because it's not a religious book. It's talking about, you know, how you should be, you know, how you can just have these conversations with God and how to listen to what he is saying. Because a lot of times the messages are coming and, you know, you just don't know whether or not it's a sign. You know, is it a coincidence? Is it deja vu? You know, a lot of those things are actual messages that you are supposed to be heeding to. And also that feeling like, you know, if you are doing something and the hairs on the back of your neck start to stand up, chances are you're not supposed to be doing it, you know, and that's your warning. Mindfulness is something that is becoming increasingly popular. And I would definitely say, you know, study what mindfulness is, which is essentially being fully present in whatever you're doing. Far too often right now with the society that we live in this microwave society where everything moves at a New York minute. So we aren't fully present. We aren't fully experiencing anything that we're doing. So my best advice is also to just be mindful, you know, be present, be in the moment that you're supposed to be in, not here, but only to be alive for the next moment and only to be living for the next moment. You know, there's a philosophical saying, forget who the philosopher was, but he talked about goals and how people never actually celebrate the goals that they've achieved because we're already on to trying to set and achieve the next goal because we aren't present. We aren't present for the moment of achieving the current goal. And so, being present allows us to hear, see, feel, experience everything that we can.
I love that. I don't remember who said it, but it hit me like a ton of bricks with one spiritual teacher said, only the present moment exists. Mm-hmm. The past doesn't really exist. It's just your imagination, your memory. The future doesn't exist. It's not here yet. So why are we focusing so heavily on what's behind and what's forward when we can really make use of the beautiful, meaty, perfect now? And that hit me hard. I still am very future focused. I'm a planner like you, but it really helped me slow down. And I love that you mentioned about praying, because praying versus listening, because prayer is when you ask and you speak to God, universe, spirit, or whatever, but then you do have to be quiet and listen. And I know you said you wanted to spend time alone. So I'm curious, do you do any meditation or anything like that?
So I don't know how to quiet my mind, so I don't do meditation.
Okay.
That's
How'd
not
you get still?
That's not my strong point. I can focus on things, if that makes sense. So
get into that flow state.
Yeah, like I know how to hyper focus. I cannot clear my mind though. So like for me, it might be something like hyper focusing on, say, like a fire in front of me or a wall in front of me, and I'm just staring at the wall, not necessarily going into a meditative stance or focusing on a sound, like water, like if it's raining,
Girl, that's meditation.
Yes, but I don't know how to intentionally clear my mind, if that makes sense. Like I can't be like, oh, no words, no thoughts. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. I love that. And staring at a fire is something that I wouldn't have thought, and I think I can't wait to have the next bonfire because I'm going to copycat you on that.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Okay. So the mindfulness, what's your day-to-day actions because I know you said you set daily intentions. So what do you do day to day for your mindfulness practice, if there is one?
So, it's funny because I literally just finished preparing like a video presentation on like mindful parenting.
I want that link.
As soon as it comes out, I will send it to you. But like mindfulness, and people think of, even like how you said meditation, like listening to like the verbiage, it can be intimidating. Mindfulness is literally being present every day. So like when I wake up, instead of jumping out of the bed and immediately getting started, like I pay attention to how my body feels already. Like if I'm sore, did I sleep well? Like, how am I feeling? Paying attention to my body. Also using that time to set my intentions. Like, okay, so what are some of the things that I'm focusing my energy on? How am I going to fill my cup today so that I can make sure that I show up for myself and my loved ones? And it's also the time that I use to arm myself because like, being an empath, it can be really hard. Like I've got 4 different personalities that are running around my house all the time.
Can you explain for the audience who may not know what an empath is, what that means?
It means that you and your energy are affected by those around you. So like I have a 10-year-old who is a pre-tween and just pause on that for like a second. There's lots of emotions and rightfully so because she's, still adjusting to her place in the world. We went from homeschooling back to full-time school. Now we're homeschooling again, and she's figuring things out as her hormones are raging and infiltrating her brain and stuff like that. So there's a lot of big feelings. And because we've never done baby talk with our kids, how she speaks to us is how we speak to her. So sometimes that can come off as disrespectful. So trying to teach her to temper her tone while tempering my own is, a challenge. And then I've got a middle child who is a classic middle child fighting for attention, but she's also 5 and she wants to learn. And she, and then I've got a 2-year-old who is just, I didn't have terrible 2-year-olds, but he's a terrible 2-year-old tearing at my house and he's got big feelings. They all have big feelings. They say you get a quiet child and I don't know what happened with
maybe like number 4.
It's not going to happen. And maybe that's why it's quiet, but I have 3 robust and individual personalities. And then my husband is, he's amazing. So, he's here as well. But, making sure that I am taking care of myself and understanding what emotions are mine versus what emotions are others, and how to separate and make sure that I am dealing with everything in a healthy way. So if I'm feeling overwhelmed, or if I have a lot of anxious energy, what that might mean is I need to make sure that I get up before everyone and work out. If I've woken up and my body is sore, that might mean I need to take that time to take a shower and heat my muscles up and do some stretching and some yoga. If I've woken up and I'm cranky, that might mean I need to wake my husband up so that he can wake me up properly. You know what I mean? So that you can set those intentions throughout the day, so that you can, really dial in to being present. And then even with like eating. So I'm not necessarily eating to lose weight, but I'm eating for health, like my health. I've been to an integrative doctor here in Atlanta who is amazing. And so I've gotten some blood work done, some other testing done. So like paying attention to what types of things I'm craving to make sure that I'm meeting that need in a way that is healthy for my body, so that I'm not, inflaming it. So I'm not, not fueling my body the proper way. So paying attention to what I'm eating, how I'm chewing it. Am I chewing it enough? That sort of thing, like being fully present. Same thing with my cup of coffee, like, because that first sip hits differently when you're in the moment.
Yes.
You have to, especially now. So, enjoying that moment, that's just, and it's everyday mindfulness that really helps you to slow down and center in a time where everyone is moving quickly.
I love this. I love how flowy this is, with everyone, including myself, having my morning routine is not rigid, but it's very much the same every day for the most part. So I love that you check in with yourself and like, okay, no, I'm not going to do this rigid routine, even though I'm a planner. I'm going to see what I need today, this minute. That is beautiful.
Right.
That is beautiful.
It changes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what brought you to mindfulness? Like, where were you that you now have this amazing and perfect and present, just soft, feminine routine for yourself? What brought you here? It sounds like it. So shush, we'll pretend it is.
Right. We'll pretend. But for reality's sake, I used to struggle with being an extremist. Like it was either all or nothing. And if I didn't wake up every day, or if I wasn't mindful in every moment, it was like, oh, fuck it, I'm done. But also like at the beginning of this year, my son had a febrile seizure. And it was something that I felt like I could have prevented if I had been present. But I wasn't. Both of my daughters had been sick. My husband was getting over what we now think was COVID-19. And I was spent because I was essentially the only caregiver for like 3 weeks.
That's heavy,
and I was tired. Yeah. And so when my son got sick and he was feeling lethargic, I just put him, I baby wear. So I just put him on my back and I just was not paying attention to what he was doing because I had deadlines. I had work that needed to get done and I didn't have time for a sick baby. And even the next day, when he was lethargic, and he's never that way. He's not a sickly child. He might get a fever, but even when he has a fever, he's up running around, fighting his infection physically. And I was just like, I don't feel like having him on me. I don't want to be sick too. And instead of being present for him, I wasn't. And when he had the seizure and I thought that he had died in my arms, it was like that, snap back to reality. How when you go through things and you're like, oh my God, I promise that if I make it through, I will do insert whatever. And, as I'm holding him and as he's seizing and I'm watching the life leave him, I'm like, God, if you just let him be okay, I swear I will be present in every moment I can be. And I immediately went to therapy. And,
good girl.
Just trying to work through it. I'm the type of person where I feel like I am not doing enough work unless my entire plate is overflowing and I'm still like, yes, I can. So I can't, I'm learning that unless unless something is helping me to get to my goal, I'm saying no, because it's not possible for me to be present if I am scattered.
There goes your cost benefit analysis.
Mm-hmm. It's just not possible for me. So setting up those boundaries is important to me, because the things that are the most important to me are under the roof of my house right now. And if I can't be present for them, to limit the amount of hardship that they go through, to limit the amount, then what's the point of me being here? You know, and also, like, I am meant to do more than just work and bring in income and clean a house. Like, I'm meant to live. I'm meant to help people. I'm meant to inspire others. And if I'm not taking care of myself and I'm not living fully in each moment, then I miss so much. You know, I miss laughing until I cry and pop a blood vessel in my eye with my children. You know what I mean? Yeah. I miss playing tag in my front yard while we're quarantined. I miss these things because I'm too busy, you know, just being busy. And I wanted to be more present.
I love that. I hate what brought you to mindfulness in this way. And I'm sorry that you went through it at all. And I'm so glad he's okay. And I hope you are putting down the weight of that guilt, because it is not yours to hold. But I am grateful that you did get to mindfulness. And also just thank you for your vulnerability and your authentic words today. I love how, you know, even in your blog and your social media, you bring the real, you bring the authentic real life. It's not always rainbows and, oh, look, I'm making these muffins today, friends. You know, it's like real life shit happens, and we should talk about it honestly and with full feelings, so that other women, other moms know that, oh, feeling like you're going crazy 99.9% of the day, it's okay. So
it is, and I don't feel like we talk about it enough. Like, even with, you know, the school shutting down, you know, and people being like, oh, what, you don't want to spend more time with your kids? And it's like, that's not what it is. Not everybody wants to homeschool. Not everybody wants to be around their kids 24/7. And it doesn't make them a bad parent. In fact, that's probably what makes them a great parent, because they know their limitations, you know, and instead of shaming moms into feeling like they aren't normal because of how they feel, what we need to be doing is being honest about our own, you know, matriculation through motherhood, and, you know, just how we manifest things with our own families. Like, and so that we're setting up like different sets of situations of normalcy that people can feel like, oh, I'm not a bad mom, or, oh, I'm not a terrible person because I don't want to be around my kid 24/7 because I need a breather. You know, I think that we need to be more honest about our experiences with motherhood, so that as the next generation becomes moms, they aren't like, oh, wait, this shit is legit hard. Yeah, this shit is hard.
From minute one, sis.
Right. This shit is hard.
I love that. And yes, we all need to just embody a more authentic way of showing ourselves. What do you think stops people from doing that? What do you think it is that makes people say, oh, wait, I don't want to show my real self. Let me put on this quick facade real quick.
I think it depends on the culture. Like, I know within the Black culture, you know, for so long, we were in essence, told that, or taught that we were supposed to make it seem like everything was perfect. Like, I was raised in upper middle class, you know, like my grandfather was Duke Ellington. So Duke Ellington's bassist. So like, we were,
I was about to say, wait a second, you never told me this.
No.
Hold on.
But, you know, we're taught that it doesn't matter what happens, you know, on the outside of the world, as long as everyone thinks it's perfect, it's fine. And for so long, we were taught to keep up these facades and fake it till you make it and stuff like that. And then we learned that that's not what we should be doing, because we don't learn that way. You know, like, I know that looking back on how my mom kind of dealt with motherhood, she didn't seem like this shit was hard at all. And so I look at myself and my own experience of motherhood, and I'm like, yo, am I doing it wrong? Like, what? Yeah. This is like legit hard, because, you know, like, I am parenting differently. I'm parenting so that my kids, you know that they have a space that they can speak to, knowing that they have a space with me that they can be themselves authentically. it's important to me. Like, I know we were told that our parents weren't our friends. Like, it's important to me that my kids know that I'm their number one friend. I am their first friend in life. That doesn't mean you can disrespect me, but what that means is that we have open dialogues about anything and everything. Like, my middle child will say, Mommy, I didn't like it when you yelled at me. And she's not disrespectful. And we have a conversation about how it came to this. But we were raised to be seen, not heard. We were told that we couldn't, talk back or share anything or speak against ill of, elders. Mm-hmm. And, to essentially keep up this facade of perfection. And now, even with social media, it's like, I remember when, my oldest was like 2, and people on social media would be like, I just had my 2-year-old do the whole kindergarten workbook. And I was like, yo, we just made it through the day. Like, I thought I was doing well. Like, we made it through the day, and so now we just are competing. We're competing to be seen as like the best mom in everyone's eyes. And you know what I mean? I'm just like, honestly, at the end of the day, like, as long as your kids are alive and healthy and you did the best that you could to keep them safe and loved, then, hey, you showed up. That's good enough. Like, you don't have to have like Pinterest activities every day. And you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to have all the answers. Like, there's a lot of things that my oldest will ask me, and I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, let's Google it together. Google.
Yep.
Right? We about to call Auntie Google right now, But we don't have to be perfect.
I love that. And I hope everyone who is listening really lets that sink in, rewind it, listen to that again, because I feel like some women need the permission to show their true self. Yeah. And maybe the people that are in their circles aren't really showing their true selves either. And they think like, oh, the facade is the normal way of being. I want to encourage them and offer them another option. Like, follow Aaronica. Let her be your guide on this. And if you need that inspiration to live authentically and speak your honest truth, even if it goes against the people that you are around most of the time, that it's okay to do that. It's okay to really be yourself. Be yourself. Yeah.
Like, I cry in front of my kids. I apologize to them.
I don't know if my mother has ever apologized to me. I'm pushing 40, honey. So I apologize to
Dani,
my
you better
kids.
look amazing.
Thank you. My black don't crack yet. But really, thanks. But my mother's never apologized. So I am sure whenever I lose my temper with my kids, I quickly apologize and let them know. And I love that you are parenting in that kind of, Black parenting nouveau.
Yes.
I think we are having a renaissance in the Black parenting world. So I'm glad that you're on that. And I love how inspiring you are. And just the way you're doing life and doing motherhood is just, I'm honored to be able to watch and call you a friend from afar. So Thank you
so much.
Thank you. Tell everyone where they can find you, what you are doing, all that good stuff. Let them know where to get at you.
You can find me writing about motherhood and eco-friendly living and going green with gentleness at thecrunchyMommy.com. Social media is The Crunchy Mommy on Twitter, on Facebook, on the gram. And then you can see me on TikTok making pretty dope things, hanging out with my family, Aaronica Cole there. You can also follow me as I talk about lifestyle and womanhood at Aaronica Cole on Instagram. And if you're interested in sewing, because I'm also a seamstress, you can follow me on The Needle and the Bell with an E.com.
Awesome. You see, she's doing all the things. So head curator of awesomeness and doer of all things, certainly the best title for this woman. So go check her out. Aaronica, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much.